There is a white powder running along the base of every wall in my garage right now. It has been there for 6 years. I have not touched it. I have not reapplied it. I have not sprayed anything over it or under it. And in 6 years, I have not had a single cockroach, spider, ant, earwig, silverfish, or beetle establish itself in that garage. The powder costs $14 for a 4-pound bag. One bag treated my entire garage, the crawl space beneath my house, the base of every exterior door frame, and still had product left over. It is older than the dinosaurs. Literally. The material in that bag was formed from the fossilized shells of microscopic aquatic organisms that lived in ancient lakes and oceans 30 million years ago. It was sitting in the ground, doing nothing, until someone figured out what it does to insects. What it does to insects is this. The moment a crawling insect walks through it, the microscopic fossilized particles, sharper than glass at the microscopic scale, breach the waxy protective layer of the insect's exoskeleton. Without that waxy layer, the insect cannot retain moisture. It dehydrates and dies. Not in seconds. Within 48 hours, depending on the species and the humidity. Slow enough that the insect carries it back to the colony before dying. Fast enough that the colony collapses. It works on every crawling insect, every one, and because the kill mechanism is entirely physical, not chemical, no insect on Earth can develop resistance to it. You cannot evolve your way out of dehydration. My name is Marcus. I spent over 30 years in professional pest control, and I am going to tell you today exactly what this powder is, exactly how to use it, and then I'm going to tell you the part that genuinely bothered me for years while I was still inside the industry, which is that every pest control company operating in your area knows about this product, has known about it for decades, and has a very specific reason for not bringing it up in the consultation they charge you $60 for. What the industry does not want straightforward, the pest control industry in the United States generates over $17 billion in annual revenue. A meaningful portion of that revenue comes from recurring service contracts, quarterly treatments, monthly treatments, seasonal programs, repeat business built on repeat applications. The product I am about to describe requires one application, maybe two, if you have a severe infestation already established. After that, it sits there and works indefinitely as long as it stays dry. No monthly reapplication, no quarterly service visit, no contract. That is the entire reason you have never heard a pest control sales representative mention it by name in a consultation. The product is Diatomaceous earth, food-grade Diatomaceous earth, and it has been sitting on the shelf at every hardware store in America for years, next to the expensive spray cans and the foggers and the bait traps, quietly working better than most of them for a fraction of the price. Let me share the science behind 30 million years. Diatoms are single-celled algae. They lived in freshwater lakes and oceans across the prehistoric world. They died, and their silica shells sank to the bottom and accumulated over millions of years into thick deposits. Those deposits are now mined, dried, and ground into the fine white powder you find in a hardware store bag labeled Diatomaceous earth. What makes those fossilized shells lethal to insects is their structure at the microscopic level. Each particle has razor-sharp edges and an extraordinarily porous surface with a strong natural charge that attracts and absorbs oils and lipids. The outer surface of every insect's exoskeleton is coated in a waxy lipid layer. This layer is not decorative. It is the insect's primary defense against water loss. Without it, the insect's body cannot regulate moisture. It desiccates from the inside out. When a cockroach, flea, ant, bedbug, earwig, silverfish, or any other crawling insect walks through a layer of diatomaceous earth, those particles attach to its body, abrade the waxy cuticle layer, and absorb the lipids from the surface. The insect's moisture barrier is gone. Within 24 to 48 hours, the insect is dead. This mechanism works regardless of what insecticide compounds the insect may have developed genetic resistance to. Pyrethroid-resistant cockroaches, and they exist in nearly every major U.S. city at this point, cannot resist diatomaceous earth. Resistance to a chemical compound is a biological adaptation. There is no biological adaptation to physical desiccation. The physics do not negotiate. This is important because one of the most frustrating realities of modern pest control is treating a population with a product it has already adapted to without knowing it. Diatomaceous earth makes that problem irrelevant. Food grade versus pool grade. Before I tell you where to use it, I need to be direct about something that confuses a lot of people. There are two types of diatomaceous earth on the market, and they are not interchangeable for pest control purposes. Pool-grade diatomaceous earth is chemically treated at high heat, a process called calcination that converts the silica into crystalline form. It is used in pool filtration systems. It is genuinely harmful to lung tissue if inhaled, and should not be used anywhere near people, pets, or animals. Do not use pool grade for pest control under any circumstances. Food grade diatomaceous earth is the amorphous silica form, not crystalline, not calcinated, not chemically processed. The particles are still microscopically sharp enough to damage insect cuticle, but the silica structure is not the crystalline form that causes lung tissue damage. You will see it used in commercial grain storage to protect against weevils and beetles. The FDA has it classified as generally recognized as safe for food contact applications. Food grade is what you want. Every bag sold for pest control use in a hardware store is food grade. It will say it on the label. Check before you buy and do not accept a substitute. So, where to apply it? Diatomaceous earth is a contact product. An insect has to walk through it to be affected, which means placement is the entire game. Apply it in the wrong locations and it does nothing. Apply it where insects actually travel and it runs continuously, indefinitely, for as long as the powder stays dry. Here is where to apply it in a home with any crawling insect pressure. Inside every wall, void accessible through electrical outlets. Turn off the breaker, remove the cover plate, use a bulb duster to puff a small amount into the void space, replace the plate. Cockroaches travel through wall voids as primary highways. Every void treated is a corridor they cannot use. Along the inner base of cabinet kick plates in the kitchen, the gap between the bottom of the cabinets and the floor, remove the kick plate if it pulls off. Dust the floor surface along the entire run. Replace the plate. This is the primary cockroach travel zone in a kitchen, and most people never treat it directly. Under and behind the refrigerator along the motor housing base. That warm compressor area is prime cockroach harborage, and they travel in and out of it continuously. Inside the gap, where plumbing enters walls below, sinks. That penetration point is an insect highway, and it is almost never treated by spray applications because the spray cannot penetrate the void. A small puff of diatomaceous earth into that gap treats the travel corridor directly. Along the full perimeter, where the baseboard meets the floor in any room with insect activity. A thin, continuous line, not a pile. The goal is a layer insects cannot avoid walking through, not a visible accumulation. In the crawl space, apply a broadcast layer across the soil surface and dust the lower sections of floor joists. Every insect traveling through the crawl space, including subterranean insect species, working toward the structure, contacts the treated surface. In the attic, dust along the perimeter where the roof deck meets the top plate. Rodent entry points, insect entry points, every gap that connects the attic to the living spaces below. Before you go, let me share the one thing that stops it working. Diatomaceous earth has one weakness, water. When the powder becomes wet, it clumps, loses its loose particle structure, and stops contacting insect cuticle effectively. A soaked layer of DE is close to useless as a pest control product until it dries out completely, at which point it generally returns to function. This means two things practically. Indoor applications in dry environments, wall voids, cabinet interiors, attic spaces, crawl spaces with good vapor barriers, are permanent. You apply once and the product works indefinitely. These are your best deployment zones. Outdoor applications or any area subject to moisture need to be refreshed after rain or after any direct water contact. The product is still cost-effective outdoors, but it requires more attention than indoor placement. Do not apply it wet. Do not mix it with water and spray it. Do not apply it to surfaces that are currently damp. Apply it dry to dry surfaces in dry conditions. That is the entire protocol requirement. Now we are going to discuss the application method. The most common mistake people make with diatomaceous earth is applying too much. A thick, visible pile of powder looks like it should be doing more. It is not. A thick pile actually works worse than a thin, even layer because insects can detect and step over a large accumulation. What you want is a layer thin enough to be barely visible, a fine dusting that insects cannot detect or avoid but cannot walk through without full contact. Use a bulb duster or a bellows duster. Do not pour it directly from the bag. Pouring creates piles and clouds. A duster deposits a controlled, even thin layer exactly where you direct it and minimizes the airborne dust that you do not want to breathe regardless of the grade you are using. A basic bulb duster costs about $5 and makes the application dramatically more effective than any pouring method. Apply it in dead air spaces, voids, gaps, under appliances, inside wall penetrations. Avoid applying it in areas with significant air movement because airflow disperses the settled layer and reduces contact time with insects. Wear a dust mask during application. Food-grade DE is not acutely toxic to inhale, but fine silica dust of any type irritates respiratory tissue with repeated exposure. This is a simple precaution that takes 5 seconds and is worth taking every time. The complete system. Diatomaceous earth in wall voids, cabinet interiors, and crawl space as your permanent passive layer. This layer runs continuously with zero maintenance in dry conditions. Every insect traveling those routes contacts it every time. Source control and sanitation as your active layer. Eliminating food sources, sealing entry points, addressing moisture issues that attract insects in the first place. D eliminates insects traveling through treated zones. Sanitation eliminates the reason they are traveling toward your living spaces. For active infestations already established, cockroaches, bedbugs, fleas, combine DE in travel corridors and harborage voids with an appropriate bait product in feeding zones. The bait addresses the active population. The DE creates a treated perimeter that eliminates insects moving through wall spaces before they reestablish in living areas. This combination, diatomaceous earth as permanent barrier infrastructure plus targeted bait in active harborage zones, is how professional treatments work when they are done correctly. It is also entirely available to any homeowner with a $14 bag of powder and a $5 duster. The spray contract exists because most homeowners do not know that. Now you do. Full protocols for every pest category, products, quantities, timing, sequences, are in the Pest Tactics field guide at pesttactics.net. Link is in the description. Drop a comment and tell me what pest you have been fighting that nothing has solved. I read everyone. Subscribe so you catch the next video. God bless.